Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suhail and I make book videos here on YouTube, so if you like reading, make sure you check out the rest of my videos. Today we're going to be doing 23 out of 2023. I am going to be honest with you, I saw Steph Bohr saying that in a vlogmas, and then she said she wasn't going to do it, but she thought about doing it, and I was like, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. I feel like I cannot narrow it down to my top 10, so I feel like 23 for 2023 sounds great, and then we can keep it up, you know what I mean? We can keep it, I don't want to get past 25. I feel like 25 will be like the last year I do that, but people do like top 20 and top 10, you know what I mean? And I don't think I can narrow it down that much. Even this one, I had to narrow it down. Like, I had to remove some books that I really liked, but I feel like these are the best ones. Even though some of them are 4 stars and I did remove 5 stars from this list, I feel like whenever I rate on vibes, okay? Solely based on vibes. And I sometimes like a book better than the other, even though it was 4 stars and the other one was 5 stars. You know what I mean? I am here for a good time. I am not here to find the next literary fiction or book, whatever, masterpiece. I'm just here to have a good time, okay? So some of these books are basic, to say the least, and it is what it is. It is what made me happy this year, and it is what I read. I don't know what to tell you. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe before you leave, because that really does help my channel. Hit that like button as well, and let's get right into it, because I feel like we're gonna be here for a while. First, we got Archer's Voice. This is a very hyped, or it was hyped, book on TikTok. I don't have TikTok anymore. I deleted my social media at the end of 2022, but this book was really hyped about when I quit social media. And when I did my video for January this year, I did say that this was like the modern day like Romeo and Juliet, because I feel like they're so meant to be. I feel like the relationship like between him and, who is this girl? Is it Brie? Why do I always think it's Brie? It's not Brie. Yeah, it is Brie. Wow, I really did remember that. This book was so good. I feel like it had like the small town vibes. It had the misunderstood character that like the female, you know, heroine goes out of her way to understanding, and it's just, it was amazing. It was amazing. Then I have The Kind Worth Killing, and this one is a thriller. This one is really good. I feel like a lot of people don't like it because, I'm not gonna lie, I agree. The author is a little bit, I don't know if he's sexist or he just liked writing in a sexist way, but like he does talk a lot about women in a way that like nothing else matters except the way they look, you know what I mean? Whenever he describes a woman, it's always about how big they are and like if they're pretty, if they're ugly. I feel like it's very superficial, so keep that in mind when you go into it. But the plot, I was able to look past it, okay? I was able to look past the sexist writing, and I feel like the story is really good, because it is like the same murder, but like you see it from like both perspectives. You see it from like the person that was planning it, the way it actually happened, and then the way that the person that got murdered saw it, kind of like the same, you know what I mean? Like what they were all doing at the same time. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I feel like I read it at the right time as well, and it does end, I think, in a cliffhanger. I did read the second one and I didn't love it as much, but it was still really good. Like, I will recommend both this one and the second one, but I feel like the first one was the best. My next book is a series, is this one specifically, but this is the second book. This is the first book, and I love this one the most. This is the one that made it to the list, but obviously I cannot talk about that one without talking about the first one. It is This Woven Kingdom, and then These Infinite Threads. They are coming out with the third book now in January. I do have a video about my most anticipated releases. I will link it up in the cards so you guys can check it out. But this is definitely one of my favorite series of this year. I feel like it's very much, I feel like all of my favorite, not all of my favorite, but I feel like I do gravitate towards fantasy romance, obviously, over fantasy. I am more of a romance type of reader. I like my romance in stories, but I feel like for fantasy, they do have to have a little bit of romance for me to be like intrigued. If I go into it thinking there's romance and then there's no romance, but the plot is interesting, then I can keep reading, you know what I mean? But I feel like they excite me whenever they have romance. So in the first one, we basically follow, I think it's Alice and Cameron. Cameron is a prince, and Alice is, she's supposed to be the queen, but she was raised like in the wrong place, so I don't think she's aware of the fact that she should be queen. But Cameron's dad or grandpa do know who Alice is, so whenever Cameron develops a friendship with Alice without knowing who she is, and he tells his dad or grandpa, I don't know which one it is, I think it's his grandpa. His grandpa kind of like wants him to stay away, and then he ends up kind of like pushing her away, and then in this book she ends up having to like marry someone for convenience. And yeah, that's where where the second love interest comes in, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I am definitely rooting for the second love interest because he's a morally gray villain and I'm here for it. All right, then we have Ashton Parker Doesn't Fail. This one is the second series in the Lila Green. I think it's called Bright Falls. It's the Bright Falls series. I did read the third one. I just don't own it. This whole series is amazing if you're looking for a not lesbian, because they're not all lesbian. If you're looking for a queer romance, these books are it. I feel like they have a good plot. They have like people coming out all the time. I love seeing like the experience of coming out, especially later in life. This one is the one that stood out for me. I like this one as well, but I feel like this one was really, really good. And I don't even like these characters that much. It's definitely the plot and like the storyline that I like the best. I feel like the third book was better when it comes to like characters, but I did like the storyline in this one the best. I feel like this whole series has my heart and I highly recommend it. Another book that I loved was Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This one, I feel like, okay, if you like feminist stories, you're gonna love this one. In this type of society, obviously women are treated as like property and they don't have any rights. So I feel like reading a story about a woman that regardless of her position in society, she still stood up for what she wants and what she believes in. I feel like those stories just hit the spot for me every single time, and this story was no different. If you like stories about sisters, this one also has, you know, the sister aspect of it, two different women who want different things and who end up, you know, marrying the right or wrong person. You also have kind of like the heroes, and back in the day they were very like macho, very like alpha, and how that kind of like affected their lives. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I wanted to like Atalanta, but that was one of my DNFs this year, so that one didn't do it for me. I do have Circe, I think it's called. I think I have it like behind this one. That one I want to read this year, so hopefully I can get to it because it's pretty old. I feel like it came out a while ago, so I need to get to it. All right, then I have yours truly. I have a whole vlog for this book, so I will link that up in the cards if you guys want to check it out and hear my actual thoughts and my reactions reading this book. But this is one of my favorite romances. I love Ava Jimenez. I've said that before in my other video, like my most anticipated releases. She is definitely one of my favorite romance writers. I feel like if I'm not looking for like a smutty book, like an actual like, you know, real romance, this is it. I love this book. I love the medical setting. I loved the male main character. I feel like he was perfect. I love the fact that they started like writing letters to each other. I love like the little plot twist. I was a little bit annoyed. If you see my video, you know that I was like very, very annoyed at the third act conflict, but I feel like I always am. So then I have the Twisted Games, which is the second book in the Twisted series. This is the only one that I own, so that's why I am, you know, showing you this one. But this whole series, like in general, is just amazing. I know that it was very hyped in 2022 in TikTok when I had TikTok, but I feel like if you like a good mixture of like plot, romance, smut, Ana Huang is for you. She is my go-to for those kind of books. The second one, which is the one that I loved, this one, that one is more of like a royal type of scenario. So we have like the princess and the bodyguard and their romance, and it's just perfect. It's perfect. Okay, I love Ana Huang. I feel like she could do no wrong. Right, then we have The Mountain Is You, and this one is a nonfiction. This was my favorite nonfiction of this year. I didn't read that many nonfictions, but this one is amazing. I actually have been trying to find it like in person so that I can kind of like reread it and annotate it and use it as a Bible, you know what I mean? But I cannot find it anywhere. I don't know if she like discontinued it or what, but I cannot find it anywhere. This one is more like about, like the title says, transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery. I feel like this book really helped me let go of like my victim mentality. Not that I had like a victim mentality. I've always been very open-minded about that. Like I don't consider myself a victim, but there are a lot of things that I will always feel like I was put in a position to, you know, fail or anything like that. And I feel like at the end of the day, we don't always have the same resources and the same opportunities as everyone else, but in my case I feel like I am most definitely like in a more privileged side of society. So a lot of the stuff that I cannot accomplish is honestly because of myself, you know what I mean, and my fear and all that. And I feel like this year I did a good job at letting go, not necessarily of people's opinions, but I do feel like with deleting social media, you do let go of trying to fit in and trying to like be validated by other people. And you know, I feel like my whole perspective in life changed, and reading this book kind of like helped. I feel like I was already like in that mentality of not caring what people think and just doing whatever I wanted, and I feel like this book kind of like came in at the perfect time for me to be like, okay, so since I don't care what anybody thinks anymore, I can now do whatever I want, you know what I mean, and kind of like accomplish the things that I was maybe like fearful of because of what people think, you know what I mean. And I loved it so much. Next we have Yellowface, and this is by R.F. Kuang. I did read Babel this year. I did not love it. It was like a 3 stars, maybe like a 4 stars for me. It was good. It was just not something I will gravitate towards ever, you know what I mean. I just read it because of the hype, and I was like, I feel like I kind of wasted my time. I did learn a lot of things, but I do feel like I could have googled it, you know what I mean. This one on the other hand, I feel like, okay, I understand that the author, like June, I think it was his name, was it June? I don't know if that's Yog. Yeah, June. They're both June in both Yog and this one. But I feel like June was a bitch, for lack of a better words. I don't know how else to say it, but I do feel like this book, like the way like R.F. Kuang wrote this book, she had me questioning my beliefs. Like she literally had me feeling sorry for June. For June. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Exactly. Like I know that she's wrong and she's the worst person ever, you know what I mean. And I still feel like the writing was convincing enough for you to be like, oh, poor June. That just goes to show that you really have to be careful where you take your information from, because the way the media kind of like tells stories and news, they do use their words, you know, with a purpose. So just be mindful, you know what I mean, whenever you're taking in information, and kind of like look at both sides and come to your own, you know, opinions and conclusions, because writing can be very convincing. And I was literally reading this knowing that June was a bad person, and I still felt sorry for her. Exactly. So yeah, just because of the nuance and like the feelings that I was feeling, which were very wrong, I feel like because this book made me feel that way, I had to put it as one of my favorites, because I never found a book that has made me like root. I mean, I have root for like villains, but normally it's like mafia villains, you know what I mean? Not racist people. You know what I mean? Like what is this? What exactly? Okay, then we have The Whispers by Ashley O'Drain. I did read The Push last year and I loved it. It was one of my favorites thrillers. I just feel like as a mom, I can relate to a lot of like, you know, mom thrillers type of things. And this book, if you guys liked Desperate Housewives, look no further, okay? Because this is messy like Desperate Housewives. You got the little like neighborhood, everybody that knows each other, and then in the story you see how everything is connected, and then you follow like the lives of every single one of them. So like in Desperate Housewives, you know what I mean, you follow Bree and Susan and all that, so you do follow all of the housewives story, and then you see how they connect at the end. But basically it's about one of them has a child, and the child fell off the window, and the day before, I think it was the day before, she went upstairs to talk to her child, and she screamed at him without realizing that the windows were open, and she was having a party in her backyard. So now everybody thinks that she loses her shit around her son. So the fact that he fell off the window the next day, people think that she pushed him. But then basically the whole book is about figuring out whether she pushed him or not. But then at the same time, you also see how like her marriage was in trouble, and then other people's marriages were in trouble, and then you had other people that were trying to like conceive a baby. Like it's just like all of their stories together, but then the main plot is basically like the child that fell off the window, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's just messy and thrilling and just really good in my opinion. I like this type of story. I feel like my taste is very like different, especially for thrillers, than like most people. But yeah, I just love hearing about like fucked up people, honestly. And we got The Housemaids and The Housemaid's Secrets, which is the second one. I did write in this one was a 5 stars. The Housemaid's Secret was a 4 star, but this, I like the Housemaid's Secrets more than this one, even though this one was highly rated. And I feel like it has to do with the fact that it is kind of like the same not the same plot, because obviously it's not the same plot, but I feel like when you go into this book you don't know what to expect, and then when you see how Millie, like the maid, works and how she deals with situations, that was a little bit shocking for me. So like, because of the shock factor, I did rate this one 5 stars and the other one 4 stars, because in the second book I feel like I already went in it knowing what to expect from Millie, you know what I mean? Like in this one you're like, oh, poor maid, what is she gonna do? Are they taking advantage of her? In the second one you were already like, no, Millie's a baddie and I know she got something going on, you know what I mean? I know she's gonna fix this. So that's why I rated the other one lower, because I feel like the shock factor wasn't there. But I did like the second one better, and both stories are worth reading. I think they're both still on Kindle Unlimited. So all right, the next one, you guys are gonna be like, really? You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going with this. Oh my god. I love this book. I'm sorry if that makes me basic. I'm sorry if that makes me like a wannabe. And I don't know what other like pick-me's are. You know what I mean? Like the people that went for Colleen Hoover at first, they're now they're going for Fourth Wing Lovers. They're like, there's nothing good about that book. I don't know why everyone loves it, because it's amazing. Because it's amazing. Okay, it has everything that I want. It has the romance, it has the action, it has the little like school setting, the friendships, the death, like it has everything. It has dragons, and the dragons have personalities. If that's not enough for you, maybe you should be questioning why didn't you like it, you know? Because dragons that have personalities, I'm sorry, but it doesn't get better than that. I feel like I don't have to talk much about this book because everybody has read it and everybody loved it. Not everybody, but most people loved it. With that being said, I do have a vlog where I reread it. So I read it twice this year. This was gonna be my favorite book of the year, but I don't think I can pick. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say I did pick one, but no, I didn't. I'm lying. This was gonna be my favorite book of the year, but like I said, I cannot pick. So I did reread it. I made a vlog about it. I will link it up, and then I will also link up the Iron Flame one, because Iron Flame did not go as planned. I did not love it. I was very disappointed, to say the least. Then I read Under the Whispering Door. This one, I would say like at the beginning was a little bit slow and I was not really into it. I even considered DNFing, but the rest of the book was amazing. I did read The House on the Cerulean Sea at the beginning of the year, and I did put it in this list, but when I had to narrow it down, I had to cut it. Because it wasn't like the best compared to like the other ones. So I feel like, okay, in this one we have like the same dynamic where like somebody goes to a house and there's new people, and you know the person's kind of like closed off and shy, for lack of a better words. Like they're not like interacting with the rest, and they don't see life the way that the other people in the house see life, especially him. He's already dead. Okay, he's dead. He's like kind of like in purgatory, I think is the name, and purgatorio, where you're like in between, you know, death and alive. And basically he has to not find a reason to live, but like he does learn a lot about life. And I feel like a lot of people grow up and they see life a certain way, and that's the way that they see it their whole lives. But if you have been someone who used to see life a certain way, and then something happened in your life where like it completely changed the way you see life, this is the type of book that will kind of like hit with those people. If you have not experienced that, then I don't know if I would recommend this book for you. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just one of those books that it's either gonna click with you or it's not. But it was amazing. I loved it. And I always love, like, this one is like one of those fantasies that like have romance but doesn't have like a lot of romance, you know what I mean? And it's not like the main part of the book, but I did love the love story a lot. I feel like it was really cute. Next, okay. This is the one that I was gonna say that it was my favorite book of the year, but I honestly don't. No, I'm looking at like the rest of my list, and no. I loved it. I do have a vlog about it as well, so we'll link that up in the cards. If I say that I link something in the cards and it doesn't pop up, it's because it's part of another vlog that I have already linked up, and I cannot link the same video twice. So just check out the videos that I have like linked up in the cards and you will see it. I cannot wait to read the second book in the series. This is a story about a writer. I think they're both writers, like newspaper writers, and they are like not academic rivals because they're not in school, but they are kind of like rivals because they do the same thing, you know what I mean, and they both want to be the best. But it's one of those stories where like the guy has always been in love with her, and so I think she gets passed or like looked past for a promotion, and she doesn't get it, so she ends up, there's like a war going on in this world as well. So she works for this newspaper, she gets passed for the promotion, so she doesn't get it, and then she ends up quitting to go write about the war. So she is gonna go to the front lines to write about it. And we have a romance who works for the same newspaper. If I'm wrong about that, please don't judge me, okay? I read 125 books. Sometimes I mix up the storylines, okay? So Roman works for the same newspaper, and he basically goes chasing after her, and it's just amazing. I feel like what stood out about this book for me was the writing. I have always watched booktube like over the years, and I have always heard people say like, oh, I didn't like that type of writing, I didn't like that type of writing, and I'm like, what do you mean? What does that even mean? Okay, what does that even mean? But I can see it. I can see how this is like a beautiful, like it's more like not poetic, but it is like, it hits like a poem. It has like very like an elevated, you know what I mean, level of writing, and it's just, it makes the whole story beautiful. And I feel like because it's kind of like historical as well, it has like those like, I don't know, I loved it. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say, but you should read it. And I think this was also hyped, so there's a reason for the hype. Then we have, I have not read this one, by the way. I have read the first one and the second one in this series. This is the Windy City series, and I love them. This is the next one. I think I'm gonna read this one. I am going to Czech Republic, to Prague, this weekend, so I might take this one, or I might take King of Greed to read. I still don't know, because those are like my next ones in both of those series. What is wrong with me today? I feel like I can't talk. Whatever is on Kindle Unlimited, that's the one that I'm gonna take. But if you watch my most anticipated releases video, you will see everything I feel about the series. But it is amazing. The male characters, I feel like, are perfection. I feel like the girls are, I feel like it's like a mixture of how you can be not alpha, because I feel like saying alpha male does have like a negative connotation, but like I feel like today's society, you're either like an alpha male or a beta male. And I feel like because you are a beta male, that makes you like less macho, like less of a man, quote unquote. And I feel like these books have a good representation of what it's like to be a beta male who is also a little bit of an alpha male, you know what I mean? Like you can have both. Life is not black and white, you know what I mean? You can literally take like characteristics from both alpha males and beta males and put them together and be perfect. And that's why I love this. And I also love the women in the series. Like Stevie and Indy, I feel like they were very different when it comes to personalities. Stevie was more chill, more like, you know, like a baddie, and I feel like Indy was more like, you know, more extrovert, you know what I mean? And I feel like she is a very acquired taste, but to me she was perfect from the beginning, and I love her. I actually like Indy more than Stevie, but I feel like they're both baddies and they stand up for what they believe in, and I love that. So both My High and The Right Move made it to this list, but I am counting them as one because like I said, I cannot narrow it down, so you're just gonna get both, okay? The next one, this has a 3.74 ratings on Goodreads, and I understand it wasn't like the best story, but is it the best world ever? Yes. Is it the best superpower to have? Yes. Is it the best book at like describing like cozy worlds and mushrooms and nature? Yes. And if you know me, you know those are all the things I love. So for that reason, this made it to this list. I don't care that the romance is kind of dumb. Not dumb, okay, I'm not gonna say dumb either, but because we see them both in the past when they were teenagers and in the future when they see each other again, I do feel like I was having a hard time separating both of them. So the fact that she was also hiding a secret that in my opinion is not that big of a deal and you should just say it was making me feel like she was a little bit childish. So I am not gonna lie, I did not love the romance in this book, but everything else was amazing. I loved it. Next I'm missing the second book, so don't judge, okay? Don't judge. It's sold out everywhere. I literally have it on a hunt and I can't find it. So we have the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. This is also one of those books that I will count as one. The whole series is one book because I cannot narrow it down and I cannot choose which is my favorite. So this whole series was amazing. I don't know, I just feel like like this year I became a huge like Stephanie Gerber fan. My next book is Caraval in this list, so Caraval as well. You know what, I'm gonna talk about all of them. So whenever I read about fantasy worlds, I feel like they're always kind of like fae and magic and more like enchanted forest, but this series is like, this cover is it's giving the world. I feel like this world is more, actually let me see if they have a map, because I feel like the map that I saw, you guys, can you see this world? It's just more like whimsy, like you see like the sirenas, mermaids, just everything about it is just beautiful. And I feel like, I think it's supposed to be in the same world as Caraval, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, the maps, oh, I have hair in my the maps are not the same. This is the one for A Curse for True Love. Yeah, it's not the same, but it's kind of like a different area of the north, the magical north. So that's the world that I'm talking about, the magical north. I feel like it was very more like whimsical, more like, you know, princess and prince and royal. And I feel like normally I read about, like I said, books about like dragons and like forests and just big like not manors, but like big houses and stuff like that, not necessarily like a castle. I feel like here it felt more like princess like, more once upon a time, you know what I mean? Like maybe like the title is helping with that, but I just feel like this world was very, very different, and I am obsessed with it. I also really enjoyed the love interest. I feel like the fact that they cannot kiss, you know what I mean? Because if they kiss, she can die. Talk about the perfect recipe for an angsty slow burn. Thank you very much. The series was amazing. If you guys have been thinking about reading it, take this as my you should read it as soon as possible. With that being said, we have Caraval, and Caraval is, it gave me the same feeling, like the same like magical, there's just something about Stephanie Gerber's writing that is just like, you know, like it just hits like it's just different. Like I said, I feel like a lot of fantasy stories kind of like feel like they're in the same world a little bit, you know what I mean? Like the same type of people, the same type of society. And I feel like she created a fantasy world that definitely felt completely different. And I feel like Caraval, even though it's supposed to be along the same lines, like around the same country but different state, you know what I mean? I feel like it just felt different, because that one, in my opinion, it felt a little bit like circus, like a circus world. Like we have like the main guy, and then you go in there and then you don't know who to trust. It's like you also have they say that you cannot believe everything you see in Caraval. So like throughout the story stuff happens, but you have to also keep in mind that like you can't believe that, or you can't trust this person. And it's like, you know, you're like walking on eggshells, and it's just, I don't know, I just feel like it's very different from anything I've ever read before. So obviously it stands out to me. And I read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series before Caraval. I don't think you have to read them in order. I feel like maybe if I would have gotten to the end of Caraval, I would have understood things better in Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I won't be able to know that until I get the finale. So Wildfire. And I also talked about this one in depth in a video, so I will link that up in the cards. This one, I feel like, okay, I am not someone who likes one night stands in books. In real life, I don't care, but in books I don't like them, because I feel like it feels too insta-lovey, and I like me a good slow burn, you know what I mean? So I don't like one night stands, but I feel like this book did an amazing job at bringing in the one night stand aspect. I feel like this is the only time I have ever liked a one night stand. By the 25% of the book, like we were still in the one night stand. So that's how much she developed the one night stand, to where it didn't feel instant and just like something that happened and, you know, you didn't get that much from it. But I feel like what I clicked with the most, and I said that in that other video, is that I feel like she's more like a break the rules type of person, and he's more like serious and doesn't break rules, you know what I mean? And I feel like they both did a good job at like balancing that out of each other. And I feel like that's kind of like how me and my husband are. I'm the one who used to break the rules, and he was the rule follower, and now we have both like not calmed down, but like I am not, like I said in the video, I am not that much of a rule breaker like I used to be, and he's not as a rule follower as he used to be, you know what I mean? And I feel like because I was able to click with that, maybe that's why I love this book so much. But I don't know, I like the whole like camping situation. You also have like the other staff, and then you have like the fact that you cannot date at work and they work together in the camping thing. So yeah, I love this. And I feel like Hannah Grace has a good, just like Liz Tom 40, I feel like she writes her male characters to where they're not like assholes and they're more open-minded. Like in Icebreaker, he literally became friends with a guy that she used to like have as friends with benefits. Like the girl used to have a friends with benefits, and then they broke up because she started dating the guy, and now the friends with benefits and the guy are friends. They're not like, oh, I don't like him because he used to sleep with him, you know, like whenever like guys get like that. No, they were like, oh yeah, that's cool, you're just part of the past because I trust you. Next, we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and this one gave, like I said 1,000 times, House on the Cerulean Sea, but like witchy, and you have like the newfound family. So you have like this witch who feels like she doesn't belong, and I think she like fakes to be a witch online. You know how like some people do Reiki and they do like tarot like readings online on live and stuff like that? Well, she's one of those like influencers, and a group of people that are real witches found her channel, and they basically like talk to her so that she can come to the area that they live in, because they know that she's a real witch. Like they can tell that she's a real witch and not like a fake witch like she pretends to be. So she ends up like going to this place, and there she has like a newfound family and a romance with a hot librarian. You have the kids. It's just amazing. It's amazing. I feel like I loved the story. I feel like I had read about it somewhere, maybe on the internet when I had social media, where I was more active on social media, because currently I do have social media. Again, I'm just not active like I used to be. This was one of those books that I feel like a lot of people like raved about throughout the years, and I always thought about reading it, but like I never really got to it until now. Oh, my neighbor, well my neighbor just drove by and I don't want him to see me recording. So, like I was saying, this book, again, I used to see it all the time, and I finally like caved in and I was like, fine, I'll read it. And I'm so glad I did. I mean, it made it to my top 23 of 2023. Can you believe that? Okay, then we have Caraval, which I already talked to you about. Then we have Love, Holly. This is the only Christmas book that I completely finished this year, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It's the story about this girl who basically has lost, not her family because they're not dead, but something happened in her family that she's now kind of like cut off in a way, and she's looking to like belong somewhere. So she writes to these people during the holidays, and the letter that she got was from this old lady who basically claimed that I don't remember if she told her she had cancer ahead or like throughout the letter or after, but basically like this lady has cancer and she has a grandson who she's not in contact with anymore for a situation that you guys are gonna have to find out in the book because I don't want to spoil it. But basically this girl feels kind of like called to bring this lady and her grandson together, and basically throughout the story she develops a really beautiful friendship with this lady. I feel like out of all the books that I have read that are about romance, this is one of those books that, like, yes, I like the romance, but I do like the friendship with Holly and the old lady, and kind of like the dynamic that she has also with her own family, how they're distanced and the situation going on there. I feel like the whole story was just so much more than a romance. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like if you want a book that's more like mature and like not as like smutty, I feel like this will be perfect. This will be perfect, and I will read it even if it's not like Christmas time, because I feel like the Christmas is kind of like a theme, but it's not necessarily like the main part of the book, so I don't think you should only read it during Christmas. All right, then we have Belladonna, and this one, you guys, this book came out of nowhere. Okay, it didn't come out of nowhere for me because it was the second time that I borrowed it from the library, but I do have a vlog coming up with all of my thoughts. So you know what, I'm just gonna keep my thoughts to myself, and whenever that vlog is up, you guys can check it out because it should be up either this week or next week. It's amazing. It's kind of like a murder mystery. I went into it thinking it was gonna be a fantasy and like a fantasy romance, but no, this was a murder mystery, and it does have like a romance which was very angsty, and it was just chef's kiss, especially because the love interest is the villain, you know what I mean? It's like enemies to lovers and a very morally gray person. But I do feel like I did enjoy the murder mystery side of it as well, and I feel like it was like a perfect combo. Like it wasn't like too much murder mystery, not that much love or romance, and it also wasn't like a lot of romance, not that much murder mystery. I feel like it was like a good combination of both, and I cannot wait to read the second one, which I already have from the library. If you guys love like gothic stories, I feel like this story too, like the world was just different, again, very different. It was more like gothic, like dark and bloody and like ghosty, and like I don't know, I just feel like everything about it. If you're looking for like a gothic murder mystery fantasy romance, this will be it. Then last but definitely not least, we got Half a Soul. I cannot believe that it took me so long to read this book. But this one, okay, it said that it was like a mixture of Bridgerton and House Moving Castle, which I also watched this month again. I have watched it before multiple times, but I just feel like this book was like, I need to rewatch House Moving Castle. So this is supposed to be like a mixture of Bridgerton and House Moving Castle. I was having a hard time understanding how that would fit together, but I feel like now after reading the book I can see why. And it's basically like a Bridgerton like society, and then there's this girl who is kind of like, she has half a soul, so she says things in front of people that she shouldn't say. I mean, nowadays you can say it, but like back in the day in that type of society, obviously you cannot just say whatever you think because you're a lady, and like you couldn't speak your mind the way that you can nowadays. So it did have that aspect, and she is one of those people that would just like, she has no filter, and she's dating this guy who is looked down on for not having a hand. Like he's amputated, and somehow like that doesn't make him worthy of anything in life. So basically she clicks with him, and he is giving Hal. That's why I can see the resemblance. He's a scientist, and you know, like it's giving Hal. If you've seen House Moving Castle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He is just super cool, you know what I mean? He's super cool, and basically like they attract each other because obviously like a lot of ladies don't want to be with him. She is like the odd one out like him, so yeah, it's kind of like their love story, and I feel like it hit the spot. It was perfect. I cannot wait to read the rest of her books. I think she does have more in this series, but I don't know if they are about the same person. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one.